Celtic mythology is the mythology of Celtic polytheism, the religion of the Iron Age Celts. Like other Iron Age Europeans, the early Celts maintained a polytheistic mythology and religious structure. Among Celts in close contact with ancient Rome, such as the Gauls and Celtiberians, their mythology did not survive the Roman Empire. Their subsequent conversion to Christianity, and the loss of their Celtic languages. It is mostly through contemporary Roman and Christian sources that their mythology has been preserved. The Celtic peoples who maintained either their political or linguistic identities left vestigial remnants of their ancestral mythologies, put into written form during the Middle Ages. Overview. Although the Celtic world at its height covered much of Western and Central Europe, it was not politically unified, nor was there any substantial central source of cultural influence or homogeneity. As a result, there was a great deal of variation in local practices of Celtic religion. Inscriptions of more than 300 deities, often equated with their Roman counterparts, have survived. But of these most appear to have been genii locorum, local or tribal gods, and few were widely worshipped. However, from what has survived of Celtic mythology, it is possible to discern commonalities which hint at a more unified pantheon than is often given credit. The nature and functions of these ancient gods can be deduced from their names, the location of their inscriptions, their iconography, the Roman gods they are equated with, and similar figures from later bodies of Celtic mythology. Celtic mythology is found in a number of distinct, if related, subgroups, largely corresponding to the branches of the Celtic languages. Ancient Celtic religion, mythology and Gaelic languages, represented chiefly by Irish mythology, mythological cycle, Ulster cycle, Fenian cycle, cycles of the kings. Mythology in Brittonic languages, Welsh mythology, Cornish mythology, Breton mythology, Irish mythology. The oldest body of myths stemming from the heroic ages found only from the early medieval period of Ireland. As Christianity began to take over, the gods and goddesses were slowly eliminated as such from the culture. What has survived includes material dealing with the two Attribution Danann and the Fomorians, which forms the basis for the text Cath Migatured, as well as portions of the history-focused Laborga Bala Éireann. The two Attribution represent the functions of human society such as kingship, crafts and war, while the Fomorians represent chaos and wild nature. The Dagda, the leader of the gods for the Irish pantheon, appears to have been a Dagda. The Dagda was the figure after which male humans and other gods were based due to his embodiment of the ideal Irish traits. Celtic gods were also considered to be a clan due to their lack of specialization and unknown origins. The particular character of the Dagda describes him as a figure of burlesque lampoonery in Irish mythology, and some authors even conclude that he was trusted to be benevolent enough to tolerate jokes at his own expense. Irish tales depict the Dagda as a figure of power, armed with a club. In Dorset there is a famous outline of an ithyphallic giant known as the Cernabis giant, with a club cut into the chalky soil. While this was probably produced in relatively modern times, it was long thought to be a representation of the Dagda. This has been called into question by recent studies which show that there may have been a representation of what looks like a large drapery hanging from the horizontal arm of the figure, leading to suspicion that this figure actually represents Hercules, with the skin of the Nemean lion over his arm and carrying the club he used to kill it. In Gaul, it is speculated that the Dagda is associated with Sucellus, the striker, equipped with a hammer and cup. The Morrigan was a tripartite battle goddess of the Celts of ancient Ireland. She was known as the Morrigan, but the different sections she was divided into were also referred to as Nemain, Matcha, and Badb, with each representing different aspects of combat. She is most commonly known for her involvement in the Tain Bocailnga. Lug, the god appearing most frequently in the tales as Lu. He is evidently a residual of the earlier, more widespread god Lagus. whose diffusion in Celtic religion is apparent from the number of place names in which his name appears, occurring across the Celtic world. The most famous of these are the cities of Lugdunum, Batavorum and Lucas Augusta. Lug is described in the Celtic myths as the last to be added to the list of deities. In Ireland, a festival called the Loughnessad was held in his honour. Other important goddesses include Brigid, the Dagda's daughter, Ibel, Ain, Macha, and the sovereign goddess, Eriu. Notable is Epona, the horse goddess, celebrated with horse races at the summer festival. Significant Irish gods include Nuada Getlam, the first king of the Tuatha Dé Achut Danann, Goibanu, the smith and brewer, Dian Checht, the patron of healing, and the sea god Manannan Mac Lir. Welsh mythology. Less is known about the pre-Christian mythologies of Britain than those of Ireland. Important reflexes of British mythology appear in the four branches of the Mabinogi, especially in the names of several characters, such as Rhiannon, Tenan, and Bendigeid Fran. Other characters, in all likelihood, derived from mythological sources, and various episodes, such as the appearance of Aron, a king of the otherworld seeking the aid of a mortal in his own feuds, and the tale of the hero who cannot be killed except under seemingly contradictory circumstances, can be traced throughout Indo-European myth and legend. The children of Llyr in the second and third branches, and the children of Don in the fourth branch are major figures, but the tales themselves are not primary mythology, while further mythological names and references appear elsewhere in Welsh narrative and tradition, especially in the tale of Culch and Olwen, where we find, for example, Mabon ap Modron, and in the collected triads of the island of Britain. Not enough is known of the British mythological background to reconstruct either a narrative of creation or a coherent pantheon of British deities. Indeed, though there is much in common with Irish myth, there may have been no unified British mythological tradition per se, whatever its ultimate origins. The surviving material has been put to good use in the service of literary masterpieces that address the cultural concerns of Wales in the early and later Middle Ages. Remnants of Gaulish and other mythology. The Celts also worshipped a number of deities of which little more is known than their names. Classical writers preserve a few fragments of legends or myths that may possibly be Celtic. According to the Syrian rhetorician Lucian, Ogmios was supposed to lead a band of men chained by their ears to his tongue as a symbol of the strength of his eloquence. The Roman poet Lucan mentions the gods Taranis, Tutates and Esus, but there is little Celtic evidence that these were important deities. A number of abjadar coins and altars may depict scenes from lost myths, such as the representations of Tarvos Trigoranus or of an equestrian, Jupiter, surmounting a snake-legged human-like figure. The Gundestrup cauldron has been also interpreted mythically. Along with dedications giving this god names, there are also deity representations to which no name has yet been attached. Among these are images of a three-headed or three-faced god, a squatting god, a god with a snake, a god with a wheel, and a horseman with a kneeling giant. Some of these images can be found in Late Bronze Age peat bogs in Britain, indicating the symbols were both pre-Roman and widely spread across Celtic culture. The distribution of some of the images has been mapped and shows a pattern of central concentration of an image along with a wide scatter, indicating these images were most likely attached to specific tribes and were distributed from some central point of tribal concentration outward along lines of trade. The image of the three-headed god has a central concentration among the Belgae, between the Oise, Marne and Moselle rivers. The horseman with kneeling giant is centered on either side of the Rhine. These examples seem to indicate regional preferences of a common image stock. Julius Caesar's comments on Celtic religion and their significance. The classic entry about the Celtic gods of Gaul is the section in Julius Caesar's commentary Ida Bello Gallico. In this he names the 5 principal gods worshipped in Gaul and describes their roles. Mercury was the most venerated of all the deities, and numerous representations of him were to be discovered. Mercury was seen as the originator of all the arts, the supporter of adventurers and of traders, and the mightiest power concerning trade and profit. Next, the Gauls revered Apollo, Mars, Jupiter, and Minerva. Among these divinities, the Celts are described as holding roughly equal views as did other populations. Apollo dispels sickness, Minerva encourages skills, Jupiter governs the skies, and Mars influences warfare. In addition to these five, he mentions that the Gauls traced their ancestry to Dispater. McBain argues that Apollo corresponds to Irish Lugh, Mercury to Manana and Mac-Elir, Jupiter to Dagda, Mars to Net, and Minerva to Bridget. Bibliography. De Vries, Jan. Celtische Religion. Duval, Paul Marie, Les Dieux de la Gaule, New ed. Updated and enlarged. McCarner, Provincias. Celtic Mythology. New York. Hamlin, 1970. ISBN 0-600-00647-6. McCanna, Provincias, The Learned Tales of Medieval Ireland, Dublin Institute for Advanced Studies. ISBN 1-85500-120-9. McKillip, James, Dictionary of Celtic Mythology. Oxford. Oxford University Press, 1998. ISBN 0-19-280120-1. Mayer, Bernhard, Dictionary of Celtic Religion and Culture, Boydell and Bruin, 1997. ISBN 978-0-85115-660-6. O'Rahilly, Thomas F. Early Irish History and Mythology. Rees, John. Lectures on the Origin and Growth of Religion as Illustrated by Celtic Heathendom, 3rd ed. Sjöstedt. L. Gods and Heroes of the Celts. 1949. Translated by Miles Dillon. REPR. Berkeley, CA. Turtle Press, 1990. ISBN 1-85182-179-1. Sturks, Claude, Elements de Cosmogonie Celtique. Vendries, Joseph, Ernest Tonnellate, and B.O. Unbegonnen les religions des Celtes, des Germains et des Anciens Slaves. Wood, Juliet, The Celts, Life, Myth, and Art. Thorson's Publishers. ISBN 0-00-764059-5. Danilo Penna Celta, Miti Legenda, Style Regina Editrice, 1990.